Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Good evening. You made it to the Eugen Cannabis TV. You made that trip to the show that's talking about cannabis, hemp, and issues about freedom. And in fact, it's all about freedom, I always like to say.
That's
the
right.
Bottom line.
I agree with you 100%.
We got our friend Shawn with us. You got Dank here. We're here to talk about the cannabis things in the area, things that have happened, things that are going to happen, and things are happening, I guess. So,
That's
anyway,
right.
A lot of stuff coming up, big stuff. The first thing I want to talk about is the Cannabis Connection. This is a paper that's come out. A guy by the name of Keith Mansour is putting this together. It's his second issue. It's a great paper. It's got some good articles on the inside. A lot of advertisers, they're friends of ours, people we know that are supporting this paper, and they even got an article on the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest.
I saw that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, this looks very nice. Free.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? That's the greatest price ever.
Yeah. And that's the best part, it's free, yeah. And there's an article here I was noticing on the Free Protect Your Rights 420. That was Kristen McGavran did that. I don't know if you knew about that, but she put on this tour, and she had about 6 stops all over the state, and she put this presentation, she and Lori Duckworth, who's with Southern Oregon Normal, put this thing together and educate patients on their rights, and even though they're legal card holders, they need to know what their rights are and not be intimidated by law enforcement. And
I'm surprised at how many people have a card down and don't really understand what they have or don't have. You at no time ever give up your constitutional rights. Never let a police officer in your home or property without a search warrant for any reason. Always protect your rights. You don't give up your constitutional rights just because you have a card.
Yeah. I've been active 14 years, and I learned stuff at this conference, at this tour. It was excellent. The thing I learned, and this made such good sense, I never thought about it. If an officer asked me if I've been smoking, I said, well, of course not, you know. I never admit to smoking. Well, if you're a patient, how can you say, oh, no, I haven't had any? You know, so if a cop asks the patient, he could say, when's the last time you medicated? And he might say, oh, just before I left the house a couple hours ago. Boom, there's driving under the influence. That's what they told us. They said, never admit to smoking within 24 hours. No, within 24 hours.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what I'm saying. If you're a patient, you can't very well say, no, I don't use it, because you're a patient, so you obviously are using it. So you can't say I'm not using it.
Your best bet is to avoid saying anything to a police officer. Is you have that right to remain silent.
Oh, true.
You know, and the one thing, like you said, is you know, some police officers are out to entrap you there, and one of the things with medical that I've always said, and someone should tell us if this is true or not, is you don't discuss medical with police officers. That's between you and your doctor, and that's what I would say to a police officer is basically, well, officer, that's between me and my doctor, but no, I have not been smoking today while I'm driving.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a murky road, but we have to be aware of what's going on and be educated. Yeah, there are cases where cops have actually come in and asked to see the grow.
I've heard of such things, and people have done it and then gotten in a lot of trouble for it.
Yeah. So the best thing is just never submit to a search, period. That's always a good thing to fall back on. That's what Brian Michaels tells us, never consent to a search. He says, if you consent to a search and they find something, I can't do anything for you. But if you don't consent to a search and they find something, I got something to work with.
That's
exactly what he told us on this show. So
I believe him.
I try to pass it on.
He's been my lawyer before. He's a great lawyer.
Yeah. And speaking of lawyer, another one is I want to bring up too is my mind went blank. David Mole. Are you familiar with David Mole?
Never heard of him. No.
Yeah, he's a criminal lawyer too, with quite a bit of marijuana experience in the law. And
where's he out of?
He's out of Eugene. In fact, same building as Brian is actually. He helped us with the Hemp Fest twice, actually.
Good.
Yeah, pro bono, and which is a hard thing to find, you know.
What was his name again?
David Mole, M-O-U-L-E, David Mole, yeah. And so, yeah, if you need some help, he's a good one. He's a good choice to go to. He was telling me about a case of a guy in, I think it was Coos Bay. It was a fascinating case. Patient out of California, up visiting his folks who are Oregon medical patients. He got stopped with a quarter pound of their herb. And not only that, but he is not a citizen of the United States, and if they were to be convicted, then he would be exported. I mean, not exported, what do you call it? Anyway, you know, I mean, it was, I wish I could tell you. I don't remember the whole details clearly. I'm trying to get him to come on the show and talk about it because it was so fascinating how intertwined in this thing was. And it was a winter deal. I mean, it was, they offered him a plea bargain. It wasn't too bad, but he couldn't take it because if he took it, then he would have been deported. That's the
deported, yeah.
So, so anyway, he ended up going for it, and he won. He beat it, and but yeah, it was interesting. So, so anyway, there's help out there. I like to say it's not free, but it's out there.
That's true.
You know, I had a lady one time call the Southern Willamette Valley Normal chapter, and I talked to her, and she said my boyfriend got stopped and got caught with pot. I said, well, how did he get caught? Well, he was speeding and he got stopped, and and she said, and he was suspended and no insurance.
Wow, he's a
And I said, well, how did he find the pot? Well, they wanted to search his trunk, so he let him.
Wow, rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, well, I said he did everything wrong, and it'll probably cost him at least 4 figures and maybe 5.
That's right. That's right.
So
You'll spend your money for your freedom.
yeah, that's
better
it.
than giving
That's
that
it.
up.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you know, a long time ago I came up with a saying, and of course it's easy to say it when I haven't been there. Shawn has, but I always said, you know, if they want to throw people in prison, fine, let's go in mass. You know, it's overcrowded now, let's really overcrowd it. Let's, in other words, and I was saying, how could you come up with a cute little motto, and I came up with it. Don't pay the fine. Let's see, don't pay the fine, do the time.
Reminds me of Beretta back in the day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
You can't do the, if you
you
don't
can't
do the crime, don't do the time.
Yeah, yeah, if you
You know,
can't-
when I
yeah.
went to prison, Dan, I thought the same thing. Let's all go in mass, but a few people didn't show up with me. So that battle plan didn't really work out that well
Yeah,
for me.
right.
But,
Well, you know, the one
I
time-
had a good goal.
Yeah. The one time I thought I was actually going, I was kind of resigned to the fact, and I thought, well, I've been wanting to meet growers, so now I can meet some, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
But it didn't work out, but I met growers anyway, so like yourself, so it's been all right. I
That's
didn't have
right,
to go
that's
inside
right.
to meet them. There's plenty outside.
no, there's plenty of us out here nowadays. So,
Spreading the word. And speaking of growing, I had a question for you that I just came up with this afternoon, and I'm so proud of myself because I remembered to ask you. What's the latest time in the year, if you can do an outdoor grow, what's about the latest that you really want to start, that you'll have a chance of having a success?
well, I've put plants outside. I've taken small plants 6-8 inches outside in July and gotten a pound out of each plant.
Okay.
And
yeah.
so, but August is about the last time you can take a plant outside, August 1st,
Yeah.
and you'll finish on time. If you go August 15th, then you're going to finish a couple weeks later than a normal crop, and so forth. It's all kind of relative, but August 1st,
Yeah.
you know, if you had plants a foot or two tall right now, put them outside and they'll finish mid-October, late October.
Well, my best grow I had going was outside, and it was late summer, and it started, and I had beautiful colas coming. It was, they were really nice, really good. Not as big as they should have been. I didn't feed them like I should have. They were in buckets, but anyway, still, it was great production. What was there was stupendous. And then it started raining, and I thought, oh, great, now I don't have to water so often, And I didn't pay any attention to them.
They molded on you.
Yeah, I lost probably maybe close to 3/4 of the biggest one I had. It was,
that's
it
a
fell
true
over.
shame.
It fell over, and then it really got. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, you want to stake everything up, tie it up with strings and ropes, get everything up off the ground, and then, a lot of varieties aren't meant to be grown outdoors. That's anyone that's grown outdoors here in this state knows that. Some varieties will never mold on you. Some will
really?
mold every time on you.
Interesting.
I grew Mendocino Perp last year, and while everything else was rotting around me, Mendocino Perp never got a speck on it.
Excellent.
There's varieties that don't mold or are very resistant to molding. So look into that.
Do you have an email address now?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I really don't.
I was just thinking maybe people might want to get a hold of you for grower questions, but I don't know how we do that. Well, you can send an email to Dank Bagman at EugeneCannabisTV.org if you like, and I'll definitely get a hold of him for you if you have any questions for Shawn. Shawn is what I consider to be one of the expert growers. I tell people it's so frustrating. I have access to some of the best cuttings in probably the West Coast and some of the experts, the best experts in the West Coast. That's Shawn, and here I don't have a place to go do it. It's like all dressed up for a party, nowhere to go.
That is almost like everybody out there, you know. That's why I'm really for the dispensaries, and you know, the whole point to me, Dan, is that people that can't take care of themselves, people that can take care of them, that's your responsibility, if you ask me. That's our job. We have to take care of these people.
It amazes me how it helps people and how many people it helps. I mean, it's just amazing to me. So, well, thanks for coming, and we're going to back out for a bit and have some more, have some clips for you of interest, and we'll be back. So, stay tuned.
Good night, everybody.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the MPP Insider, your source for all the latest news in the marijuana policy reform movement. I'm Mike Mino. On today's episode, we're going to give you the latest update of marijuana in the news. We're going to tell you about the latest victim of marijuana prohibition, and we're also going to take a look at marijuana by the numbers. First up in the news. The first story we're going to talk about today is actually a major development in the case of Joe Casillas. Many of you will remember from a few episodes back, Joe was the Walmart worker who was wrongfully fired from a Battle Creek, Michigan Walmart because he tested positive for marijuana. Joe is actually a legal medical marijuana patient in Michigan. He uses marijuana to treat the effects of sinus cancer and an inoperable brain tumor. Well, last week in a major development, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, filed a lawsuit against Walmart on behalf of Joe, trying to collect damages for his wrongful termination. Joe is married with 2 children and has been living on unemployment since his wrongful firing. We're also going to talk a little bit about New York, where we discussed last episode. MPP and our allies, New York Patients First, are still pushing hard for the New York legislature to pass a medical marijuana bill this year. The legislature is currently out of session, but they will be returning in the summer and the fall. And there was a really promising development a few weeks ago when famous television show host and multiple sclerosis patient Montel Williams paid a trip to Albany to press lawmakers directly. He had a great press conference out there with a lot of healthy media attention, and we're trying to get as many commitments from lawmakers as possible so that New York can become the 15th state to protect medical marijuana patients from arrest. Also, 2 quick updates on initiatives out west. In Washington, a proposed ballot initiative that would legalize marijuana in Washington state failed to collect enough signatures by a crucial deadline. But another initiative in Oregon that would add dispensaries to that state's medical marijuana law seems like it may qualify for the ballot. In fact, it seems very likely. So stay tuned for that. Another interesting story come November. Next up, we're going to talk about victims of prohibition. This week's victim is Rodolfo Torre, who is the leading candidate for governor in the Mexican border state of Tamaulipas. A few weeks ago, Mr. Torre was assassinated by drug gangs in Mexico in the highest profile assassination in that country since President Felipe Calderon declared his war on the cartels in late 2006. It's another startling reminder that America's prohibition on marijuana has victims beyond our own borders. These Mexican drug cartels are selling marijuana in the United States and getting rich off it, allowing them to commit atrocious acts of violence across the border. Since 2006, more than 23,000 Mexicans have died in drug-related violence. Next up, we're going to take a look at marijuana by the numbers. This week's number, 332%. That's how much higher the marijuana arrest rate is for blacks when compared to whites in Los Angeles County, according to a new study put out by our allies at the Drug Policy Alliance. That study showed enormous racial disparities in marijuana arrests throughout California, with blacks being arrested 2, 3, and even 4 times as often than whites, even though on average, whites are more likely to use marijuana. Once again, another sign of the terrible side effects of marijuana prohibition and another reason why we need to change these laws. Once again, thanks for watching the MPP Insider. I am Mike Mino, and we'll catch you next time.
Are you tired of following all the rules? Ready to let loose? Have a little fun? Sounds like you need to. Get high. And with Narcomex Incorporated, your direct-to-consumer drug trafficking solution, you can. Narcomex values your business. That's why we're your #1 supplier of drugs, and you're our #1 consumer. These billions can't be wrong. We work hard for your business and have killed not 1, not 2, but 3 Mexican police and 2 journalists just to keep you high with that very joint. Why, our commitment to keeping you supplied has killed over 17,000 people right next door. Traffickers, soldiers, journalists, prosecutors, you name it. We're that passionate about your business. We've even begun to destroy some of your favorite tropical beach destinations. Because if you smoke enough at home, you don't even need a beach. But don't legalize it or grow it at home. Let us do the work for you. Sure, consumers boycotted evil companies, but there's no need to boycott Narcomex Incorporated, your direct-to-consumer drug trafficking solution, also offering heroin, meth, and cocaine. Narcomex Incorporated. Live a little, and forget others won't.
Well, welcome back. We got another segment with our friend Shawn, and you got Dan or Dank, either one. I'll answer to either one. Just don't call me late for din-din.
That's right.
I got the calendar here, or August, I put together. There's so much going on, I had to get this thing down on paper. But Northwest World Reggae Festival starting the 13th, runs through the 15th. And a lot of these things we're talking about here is a good opportunity to promote the Initiative 74, which is the initiative to create medical marijuana dispensaries. By the way, I heard something from John Sajo that I thought, wow, I knew this, but I didn't, and I need to spread the word. People badmouth voter power, especially sometimes with initiative, because they're against the initiative, and they badmouth voter power. Well, John Sajo, which is the director of voter power, came up with a great point. He said it wasn't for voter power, there wouldn't be any medical program in the state of Oregon.
That's very, you know what, that's so true.
You can't argue with that.
John Sajo is, he's the #1 guy in the state. And, when I started Oregon Green Cross, I went right to John Sajo and Voter Power and asked for all the information I could get. And he was more than helpful to help me, unlike a lot of groups. And anytime somebody's working to help the little people out, and these are the people without money. And that's what this measure is going to help. Measure 74 is going to help people that can't afford to buy it off the street. And, God bless you, John. You're a good man. And there is going to be an all-star cast one day, and you're going to be the #1 guy in it, in my view.
Yeah, and what they're working on right now is petition arguments to where, in the voters panel they have arguments that people submit to either pay I don't know what it is, $500 or something, or they can gather signatures to have these arguments put into the voters pamphlet. So they started a campaign of not only writing arguments, pro-arguments, but are also going to gather signatures for these different arguments. And so that's what they want people to go to these events and gather signatures for these arguments, as well as promote the initiative.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So anyway, the Lane County Fair is coming up. That's the 18th through the 22nd. I'll be there for a good part of that myself, working the booth. Voter Power will have a booth there. And another thing coming up that's new this year, the Citizens Initiative Review Committee. Are you familiar with that?
No.
This was created by the legislature last year. And what they do is they take the initiatives, and then I can't tell you the details because it's so complicated, but they pick a nonpartisan panel to review. This is a process that takes a whole week in Salem, and they actually have witnesses come up to talk about the pros and the cons of the initiative.
Right.
And then the people that are actually on the panel, they've picked a specific panel specifically of supporters of, and so it's all weighed out. And anyway, they're going to review it anyway. And the I-74 is going to be one of them. They're going to be reviewing. So that's a whole week in Salem that they're really concentrating on. again, if you're interested in all that, send me an email to dankbagman@eugenecannabistv.org, and I can send you the info on that. But it's the Citizens Initiative Review Committee, and we're really curious to see how that's going to come out. They're working on a presentation. Some of the people they got lined up is incredible. You heard of Mark Miller?
No, I haven't.
Mark Miller is, I've always known him through Sandy Burbank, but Mark Miller used to be, and I remember this service years ago, many years ago. He was at the university, and I don't remember his title, but they had a program to where if you were to buy drugs on the street, you could turn in a sample, and they would give you a code number, and they would run that sample and then publish it. And I remember the Register Guard had a little, every day, had a little thing there, and they would publish this with a certain code, and you could tell, and it would tell you what it was.
So people on the street would know if their heroin was cut with something really, really bad instead of just being bad.
Yes, and he was the one that set that up and ran that.
Excellent idea.
He's a heck of a guy. Anyway, he's going to be on the panel, and he's going to be on. Anyway, so it's all exciting. And then Seattle Hemp Fest coming up. You mentioned that. I've got it down here. I'm going to recheck this. I've got it down here listed. I guess it's right. The 21st and 22nd. Is that right? I didn't think it was that late in the month, but I guess it is. I guess it is, yeah. So anyway, Seattle Hemp Fest is 2 days this year. They tried for 3, but they weren't able to do it. Did you hear? Did I tell you about that?
No.
Yeah, they tried to go for 3 days. There was a lot of controversy among the crew over that, but they wanted to go for 3 days because they are badly in debt. They were $50,000 in debt from last year. They had a friend loan them $25,000 cash just to help out with that $50,000. So they need to pay. They need to pay him back. Plus the other 25. So anyway, they're hurting for money, so they want to go for 3 days. Well, the city said no, and they fought and lost, so they're back to the 2 days.
Still be hundreds of thousands of people, though.
Yes, it's going to be packed. It's going to be packed, yeah.
Nice.
They've pretty well outgrown that park, and there's really no other place to go. So a friend of mine that works on staff said, you better come because this may be the last one. So I mean, I wait to think of that.
Well, there's some expert help out there to help us with next year on the
right.
Emerald Empire. Huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I expect that to really get big next year. There's some exciting things coming. I've got to tell you about. I'll have to tell you later off camera. I can't announce it yet, but there's a couple things coming up. The Hemp Fest will come together. It's going to be exciting, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be very successful. I can tell you already. But yeah, if you can spend some time at any of these events, the Oregon State Fair, the Voter Power also is going to have a booth up there. I'll be spending some time up there. I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone on that one. My mom lives in Albany, and we love to go to the fair together. So I'm going to take her up, and then we'll go to the fair, and I'll work at the booth too.
Keep activating.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
While you're taking Mother to the fair.
Yeah. My 87-year-old mother in her electric wheelchair, and she's ready to go for it.
You gonna put a flag on there?
Yeah. I took her to a hemp fest down in Northern California about 4 years ago, and I went out of the auditorium. They were just setting things up, and I led up down to the auditorium. I was about out of gas, and so I was out looking for gasoline, And I come back in. There's Mom sitting at the table with a hemp baseball cap on, handing out literature for a hemp seed company, that she'd met this guy, and so he was helping handing out literature, I mean, she fit right in. Yeah.
Oh, figures.
She fit right in, yeah. So, yeah, she's very supportive, and never used it in her life, and probably never will, but she really believes in the helping people. And
Good. And we need her.
Yes, definitely. She supports what I'm doing, so that's great. And so anyway, you mentioned Saturday market. We haven't been doing Saturday market, mainly we don't have anybody to do it in the mornings. I had one lady that said she was going to be there, but didn't come through. Many times when I set up, I don't have time to stay there. I got to take off, and so I do have some people that would be there in the afternoons that were fairly regular. But between we have any other commitments, and plus the noise level.
That's right.
The noise level is just the drums,
It gets a little harder as you get older.
Yeah, it's just mind-numbing noise to me. But and plus you can't communicate with patients. But so anyway, if you have some people out there that want to help out with the market, Crossing Saturday Market, our booth at Crossing Saturday Market, we can certainly get it going again. We have all the equipment. We actually have enough equipment. We could actually set up if we had enough people, we could set up in 3 or 4 locations at once.
Yeah.
We have enough equipment, But
and don't forget that there's fringe benefits that come with it, like free access to the free speech area.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, free admission. You won't have to pay if you volunteer with Dan.
No, that's right. And you'll meet some great people. And
it's fun.
It is.
It really is.
And you know, when you work with volunteers, how can you find a better bunch of people than people that volunteer their time? So you already got a pretty good group to start with. So.
Well, you volunteer your time, right, Dan? You're
Oh
not
yeah.
getting
Oh
rich
yeah.
out of these many years of activist work.
For 14 years. Yeah. I always like to tell the story. The time I was at Saudi Market, I was broke. I made a lunch at my house and forgot and left it on the counter, you know, so there I'm at Saturday Market, having to get stoned for the day, you know, I'm spending my Saturday there, and I'm just thinking, you know, bummer, you know, here I am spending my Saturday, and about half an hour later, this guy come up and started talking about the issues and such, and he reached out and palmed me a bud about the size of my thumb and says, I appreciate you being here and putting in your time, you know, and so... Yeah, just things like that just invigorate and keep you going for a long, long, long time. You know?
That's right.
Another time, though, getting you mad was due. I went to a trip one time up the normal meeting and got so mad that fired me up. I was ready to quit until I got to that meeting. I got so mad I got fired up all over again.
I like your idea, though. It's better to beat them from within than from without.
That's right.
You know?
Just join. Yeah, that's right. So you got to work from the inside.
That's right. If you don't like a group, change it from the inside out.
That's right. Yep. You betcha. So, so stay tuned and keep an eye out. We'll be out and about somewhere. And if you need any help, send a note to Dank Bagman at ectv.359.081810. We're going to wrap it up for this week, and we'll come back with more information and more news. And hopefully Shawn will be back with us again.
Have a nice night. Thank you.
Thank you.